Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are doing the Mars entering Cancer transit. This is your AstroShaman, Pernell Bobby, and we are generating an economy of harmony, leveraging human-designed astrology, combining human design and astrology, making it one little beautiful oof. Mars in Cancer, it's a natal placement for me, and this is actually my Mars return. So this for me is actually really exciting. I have other Mars 8th house videos, Mars in Cancer 8th house specifically videos out there. So if you have a Mars 8th house video, type in Pernell Bobby, type in Cancer 8th house, and you'll find it. I'm really excited about this. You know, Mars is one of the symbols considered detriment, and in all sincerity, when I first discovered that I had a Mars in Cancer, it was terrifying. I was annoyed. It was just like everything I read about it was triggering. It was provocative, and really the fear of what this means to be a male with a Mars in Cancer was just otherworldly, driving me towards either being completely stuck or overreacting and being restless. So we're going to talk about today gates 15 in human design, or gene keys gate 15. Gene keys gate 39 and gene keys gate 52. So I have some of these gates. I have parents with some of these same gates, and it comes in this Mars and Cancer type energy. Now, as we start off Mars and Cancer in this transit, as we enter, it's actually beginning at 28 degrees of Gemini. So most signs, when it comes to the gates, it goes through its initial phase of what does it mean to complete the story of Mars and Gemini, as we move into the story of Mars in Cancer. So there's this mutation that goes along, and that mutation is oftentimes very irritable, which many may have recognized so far. Like, it's a very irritable time. Our actions are slowing down drastically with Mars and Cancer, which is going to give us this overall layer of a lazy energy by default. If you're in alignment, you'll embrace the dullness, and that's actually one of the gates, gate 15, excuse me. There's a certain dullness, there's a certain stillness, there's a certain reserved nature that to operate on a Mars in Cancer. One of the reasons why it's considered in its fall and exaltation is Capricorn is because the world we live in at this current time is a very driven energy externally outside of ourselves, and Mars in Cancer is saying, look, we want that drive, that force, that anger to be recognized and cut through from deep within ourselves. And this is what ultimately kind of pisses people off in an indirect manner without even realizing, and they end up provoking other people and triggering emotions in another, a lot of times through projecting their anger outwardly, or if they repress that fear, because Mars always has to do with our fears. What are we afraid of? What are we unconsciously pursuing? And when you talk Cancer, we're unconsciously pursuing something that is more of a conditioned pattern. And this is the kind of inner child energy on this Mars and Cancer transit that ultimately will try to go through a renewal. Because Cancer is water, and it's cardinal water. And cardinal water is like fresh seawater that is continuously cycling itself and cleansing itself out. Different than Scorpionic water, which is just continuously dirty and learns how to operate within that dirt. And Piscean water, which is like this Akashic ocean. So it's like it's no longer the ocean on the surface, like, you know, where you may swim or see the shark fin at, or the water that comes to the shore. It's the depths of the ocean, which is really more of this Akashic ocean. It's our memory, our karmic memory, and all of our watery intuitive abilities that goes so deep that truly we just don't actually know them all. But Mars in Cancer is a very different water. This is the water of like a 15-year-old woman who's going through her period, and she's moody. Let me get out of the sun. The sun is cooking me. It was truly great lighting, but it was cooking my face, and the wind is blowing, so whatever. So Mars in Cancer, and it's like a 15-year-old girl who's PMSing, and she's going through it, and she is beginning to be moody in ways where her hormones and her adrenal glands are saying, fight or flight. She's being picked on by girls, or she's being praised by boys. It doesn't even matter. What it is happening is she's going through these highs and these lows of extremes. And, you know, Mars in Cancer has a lot of that energy where it's really tough to regulate the stress that we go through. And stress is, when you talk Mars in Cancer, it has the ability to cut through the auric fields and the emotional environments to create a certain sense of safety in the space energetically around it. Specifically, its environment, really its home environment, but also the type of home environment that we've been conditioned to continuously attract. Mars is trying to cut through anything. So we're trying to cut through those auric fields of stress that you grew up in that ultimately pin down your inner child. Why? Because the inner child from the 0 to 7 years old is this kind of dynamic energy. And this dynamic energy is really spoken about in gate 39 in human design. And let me actually make sure. Yeah, I was on point. Gate 39, where we can either feel one or two things: trapped or provocative. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, so think about the girl who feels trapped in her skin, whether her hormones are not regulating and she's overweight, or they're not regulating and she has acne. It's all of these shifts that age of a female goes through. And understand, this happens now for males like myself or females. So this is not specific to gender, but it is a feminine energy and is by default chaotic and destructive. So what's important to understand is Mars in Cancer is happening while the owner or the ruler of Mars is actually in Aries. The sun is in Aries. You had a new moon in Aries, which is now Cancer's home. You had a solar eclipse coming in Aries while Mars is in Cancer still, and that's going to be again Cancer's home. Jupiter's in Aries, right? All this Aries energy that's going on in the sky while Mars is in Cancer. What's important to really understand and digest within this is, like, it's the rulership. So Mars in Cancer, it's dealing with anger. It's dealing with anger, and it's dealing with fears that are likely unconscious. And these fears are actually the motivating energy. But what's difficult is we're being asked to, instead of be like Capricorn, the exaltation of Mars, this outwardly pushing, you know, vocational seeking energy who wants to raise its status and you know, continuously finding itself in a state of dissatisfaction because it never can achieve its goals. Mars in Cancer does the opposite. Instead of externalizing those goals and putting them out there in the world, it actually has trouble understanding what its goals are. It has trouble, you know, taking action on the goals. And so when I say trouble, understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the trouble is only based off of the societal expectation of how we're supposed to act, behave, and feel through our creative dynamicism. And so, you know, instead, what really happens is if we look and we do what Mars in Cancer is built to do, which is pierce through the soul, pierce through the emotions of not only your own self and cutting through certain conditioned patterns, blocking your inner child creative energy, not allowing you to experience a certain sense of vitality, and instead fall into tremendous depression as well as dissatisfaction. We are now looking at Mars in Cancer and saying, look, this is what it takes for a seed. The seed is Mars or Aries. This is what it takes to have a seed. Literally, seed is Aries or Martian energy. We plant a seed. Now, when you plant a seed, you saw flowers over there. I cannot make that flower or that plant grow any faster than it will or needs to grow, right? You understand me? So it's like we try to force that seed. Mars in Cancer is saying stillness. It's saying restraint. And restraint looks like, you know, in a sense like Taoism, non-action, not interfering with the manifestation or the intention, and instead slowing down enough so that we can make sure that our intention and that the thing we're doing is not an external source of our energy that we project outward, but instead a black hole. And a black hole collapses and denses all matter inward. It's an inward process. This is what Mars in Cancer is doing. It's going inward to the depth of your soul. I don't want to say the depth because that would be more scorpionic, but at bare minimum it's going inward to the emotional motivations deep within, as well as the emotional genius. Now, when I say emotional genius, I'm talking creativity. I'm talking about utilizing sexual energy, Mars, and recognizing that if we focus on gravitating and magnetizing our intent, especially with this new moon energy and the solar eclipse in Aries coming, we can water the seed with the appropriate time and nurture and energy, like a divine feminine would do, it would nurture and magnetize, and as well as cut away anything that is harmful to that seed that was planted for it to grow and sprout. And what's important with this is you have, you know, a rose, and then you have a red oak tree in California. The red oak tree will live for 5,000, 10,000 years, and the rose will die as soon as it's plucked, right? You know, a week or so is dead. Now, one takes a lot longer, where it looks like for the big red oak tree that nothing is happening. And the magic is things are happening, but because of the strength of the intention or the manifestation that we're making, using our anger as a sense of fuel, a fuel system, we're now in a sense bringing a nurturing and supportive energy with this Mars in Cancer transit that ultimately will make that great tree last and live forever. But the short run, the Aries impulse, ignoring his intuition, because Aries has the intuition. Aries is tremendously intuitive. If it works with its intuition, it knows that this is the step in between, deep within the private life before it becomes public, that is necessary. And we allow Mars in Cancer to water our actions and to be the boundaries that soothe our willpower and realign our purpose and direction. Aries energy, all of the Sun in Aries, everything I said, Sun in Aries, Jupiter in Aries, Chiron in Aries, right? All of this energy, the moon will be there in the eclipse. All of this energy is wanting to gain its results now, no matter if it takes 6 months or not. We all know a manifestation takes 6 months, but Aries is like, I want to manifest this today, and if I work hard enough, then I will achieve that. And that is a lie. And the fact that Mars, if there's any reason that Mars really doesn't like being in Cancer, it's because Mars is naturally domained in Aries or Scorpio. Now with Aries specifically, this is if I push, I will essentially get the goal. Or same thing with Capricorn. But in reality, what happens is we are destroying anything that we touch, because when fire goes untamed, it becomes destructive. It is a sense of renewal and cleansing, yes, but we can't do that without water. And Mars in Cancer is providing the water, which is why Pluto in Aquarius, for example, in the beginning, it's actually taming some of the external fires that Aries have created by just flame on, flame on, flame on, flame on, pow, 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 and just this constant onslaught of action and activity. Most of the gates between Gene Key and Human Design and Gene Key, all of them, the entire thing is called the Ring of Seeking. 52, 39, as well as 15, they're all saying embrace the stages of dullness. There are some that are actually really proactive, and they're like, yeah, let's go for the struggle. But the first two gates, which is actually gate 15, that starts from Gemini to Cancer, and then we got gate 52, which is more like 3 degrees of Mars in Cancer to like 9 degrees of Mars in Cancer. Those two gates are saying, be willing to be dull and attract. And through that stillness, restrain the urge to overwater your plant, or try to put extra sun to think it's going to go faster, or try to move faster and do more action. It's like, this is not it's all about collapsing inward like a black hole. And then when we move into transition, like between like 9 degrees of Mars in Cancer up to like 15 degrees, now we're beginning to liberate ourselves and be more dynamic and, be charged in this provocative nature, where we actually almost intentionally trigger people at the highest frequency, actually intentionally trigger people, because we know that this is nurturing and supporting, humanity. When we take our manifestation, Mars in Cancer says, and we water it with the intent absent of fear, it's like the question of what would you do if you were not afraid? And I wrote that on my wall before I came here, and I learned this from a friend of mine, so shout out to you, you know who you are. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If we nurture our manifestations with fear, it will ultimately collapse sooner than we want, and we will go back to the drawing board in step 1, aka Aries. And you're going to have to wait a whole another year until Aries energy is back in the sky. That sounds pretty silly, no? So if we just water it appropriately, give it the proper time, we will then, between 9 and 15 degrees, which I don't know when that is, to be honest. It's probably like mid-April. But I don't have any calculators to tell me that right now. So, but if we do wait, damn, it's dark as hell. I want to see if I can make myself brighter. Let's see if we go back over to the light. God damn, it's mad dark. It's not that much better, but whatever. A little bit. So this is ultimately the message. Now, this is some of the information from the Gene Keys itself. Definitely just check out the membership, join the membership, hit the thumbs up and the likes button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, if you're still here, especially if you enjoy the content. But join the membership and we'll dig deeper into, you know, the gates itself and how that really kind of shows up. But the ultimate energy behind it is the fear. If we water it with fear, our intentions, it turns more into the type of energy where we're either feeling overly stuck and we freeze in time. And this is where you got to take the archetype of the crab, which is older than dinosaurs, more than 65 plus million years old. And it has seen every known threat known to man. So what I'm saying is the stress of watching and witnessing and genetically being tied to where as humans our adrenal glands and our endocrine system are still secreting hormones and chemicals that are reminding us of these dangers we faced for over 65 million plus years. We're operating in that energy now, which is essentially distorting our sense of time and reality, which is why Cancer is a very subjective sign. It is a distorted sense of reality because it operates outside of time and space, especially in its higher frequencies. Now its shadow, Capricorn, operates in time and space, literally in the physical reality, which is why Cancer falls in Saturn, because it's like, I don't work there, but Saturn's reality, right? But this is not Saturn, this is Mars. And if we allow our actions to take place outside of time and space itself, ultimately, whatever you build, and Cancer is a builder, during this time frame will come from the instinctive and emotional genius, which is literally creative energy. Understanding that what makes a genius is if we can essentially not interfere with the seed. Like, you planted the seed, you water it. If you tried to dig it up and check it out, it's like trying to open rice and spin rice to see if it's done cooking at the bottom, rather than trusting the intuition and knowing through experience and your instinctual and moon-like motherly DNA, right? A mom just knows when to take the pot of rice off the stove, and it's perfect every time, and it doesn't stick at the bottom. And she just understands through her genetic training and conditioning of this is how she was taught to cook it, and this is how she was taught to nurture rice. So understand that this entire energy it's in charge. It is the best thing that can happen to any of us. There are a tremendous amount of tension and stress right now, and what I want to say is if you're around other people, this Mars and Cancer energy is literally influenced by the environment. And so if you are around a bunch of people yelling and screaming and they're stressed out and angry and depressed, that's exactly what you will be right now. If you live in a city and you live on top of a building where there's people on the left and right, up and down, you're going to feel a crap ton of that energy, and it's going to be very difficult for you, right? Even the fact that there's sirens going off in the background, this is a part of the energy that's already collectively being put into me. So the key with this energy is like, understand that the illusion behind all this is that we're not separate. And if we can understand we're not separate and we respect that our environment impacts us, we'll do better to clean the environment. Fresh Cancer water, like I said earlier. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have a natal Mars in Cancer, and I'm telling you, like, when I first got this, I was like, man, this sucks. But as I understood it through the years, I started realizing that you're going to be the person who can cut through the emotions as well as the childhood blocks of another who inappropriately loses probably their childlike sexual and creative energy because they were conditioned to not be able to play and be free and to develop on their own. This is the interruption and interference that I'm talking about. If you allow that lesson of your childhood, if you feel like your inner child is locked up, take this and realize this is your opportunity to free it and become liberated and truly dynamic. This is when you add the exaltation of Cancer and Jupiter, which is what? Tremendously free and liberated. Sagittarius and Pisces, home and Jupiter, traditionally ruled. What is it? Absolute freedom. And that's incredible when you think about it. And a lot of what is happening is, can you be selfless in your manifestation? And this is the most important part when you finish off this Mars and Cancer transit, Mars entering Cancer. It's like when you can be totally selfless, like a Sag or a Pisces in their godly frequencies of Jupiter, just giving to give. This is why Cancer is exalted, because it gives to give. What's important is, like, if you decide to not give or not nurture or not heal out of the fear that you'll never be loved or be able to receive love, you're going to be out of alignment. Now, in the same respect, it is important to not allow yourself to be gaslit and convinced that your emotions are not valid. This will happen at the wide scale. On the lower frequencies, you will see people very, very angry, and they will use that anger to just be completely silent and stuck and just not move at all, and it will paralyze them. Or what will happen, they'll become absolutely restless, and they will likely fluctuate between the two depending on the type of person that they are, because we do live in a society that in a sense supports both. So be mindful of like self-medicating during this time, because reality will already be distorted with your actions. And you're naturally already going to be incoherent, because this is out of time and space altogether. But being there and allowing yourself to be there right now is the most beneficial thing. To slow down and do nothing. Embrace that. If you can embrace dullness, it essentially becomes a source of invigoration and creative dynamicism and literally genius not defined as knowledge or intelligence or something that you force. Knowledge is something that you can force feed. Knowledge, you can just read something and force it down your throat. But the intuitive side of Cancer is saying genius is allowing yourself to play, to experiment, to enjoy and experience bliss being something that literally cannot be repressed by dissatisfaction, because you're not externally trying to show off. You're not externally trying to achieve anything. You're not externally projecting the anger either, nor are you internalizing it so deeply where you get sick and become highly resentful, which Mars Cancer can happen. People can stay silent and just literally become resentful and start acting unconsciously, where they then likely start speeding up and be restless, not only in the mind but emotionally. And the last piece that I feel like I have to tell you with this is like to truly watch your tone, because Mars in Cancer is truly a violent symbol. I mean, Mars anywhere is violent in its own ways, but they have their own unique violences, and the emotional violence of Cancer is the key word. And emotional violence oftentimes works through tonality, the tone in which I speak, which could be, hey, get over it now. And then the next second, being like, oh my God, baby, you're so beautiful. Like, I didn't really mean that. And then you switch your tone again. That within itself, the person becomes, and they never feel safe. And if you don't feel safe, you're going to likely operate out of fear, and you're not going to nurture your projects, your business, your love life, your emotions, or your spiritual or mental wealth and health in any facility or any capacity. That's one way. Now the other side, and the more likely side, especially if this is a girl or a soft girl, will come more in this victimization voice, where it's soft and it's angelic, and it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Like, I didn't mean to hurt you. And it's like that form of tonality, especially when it coming in the form of gaslighting or literally emotional manipulation. This is the violence of emotions. This is how emotions become truly aggressive and antagonistic, as well as provocative, provoking you in order to actually cause you pain, because as long as you're in pain, it's like the simple saying that misery loves company. So this is one of the warnings on the other side of Mars and Cancer, because it could play innocent, as if it is hurt, as if it is confused, as if it is lost almost in the water, in the ocean, where you want to begin to solve problems. And this can turn into a tremendous amount of pain on your neck and your back. And I say that because Taurus is the top of the neck, the back of the neck specifically, and the top of the shoulders. And it's a very sensitive sign, and it is in Venus. And at the start of this, you're going to have Taurus reaching the North Node. In Taurus, we're faded. We're going to get more in tune with our sensitivities. It first touched at 16 degrees. And when you first start becoming sensitive, it's very easy to feel hurt and to take things personal. And only when you can no longer take things personal within a transit like this, do you really start to feel like a superhuman. So watch the tonalities. Beyond that, hit the thumbs up and a like button. If you're a Cancer in the 8th house, this is my interpretation of Mars entering Cancer. I really enjoyed this segment. Hopefully you did too. That said, be gentle with yourself, be kind, be slow. Release the tension in your teeth and allow your jaw to relax. 555 on screen. There's a big change happening within the connections that we're going through and our sensitive energies, and we're going to start embracing sensitivity as a strength. We're going to embrace vulnerability as a strength, because that ultimately is what we need to be more selfless to the next person across from us, and in return they will begin to give us love in a way that we generously give them love with super abundance. And now it's Jupiter energy, where respect the fluctuations of the moons, because the moon is naturally the ruler, and the moon goes through many different zodiac signs every 2 to 4 days. And so expect your moods and your actions to shift, where you may be completely drained and exhausted, and the next day you may be completely ready to go full force and be fierce and create like a child who has never been stimulated in a restrictive manner, who never was allowed to play and was forced to learn and use its mind rather than to create with its body. And that's ultimately what Mars in Cancer wants to do. It wants to create with its body. Body art is a beautiful thing. Massages for your partners will be a tremendously loving and connective exercise of intimacy, which ultimately Mars wants. When it comes to the feminine side of Scorpio, it wants the consideration of intimacy. And this is really a lot of times going to be confused as wanting to have sex, or confusing intimacy for sex. It's like intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is not love. It's connection. And what you need to feel connected with a Mars in Cancer transit is emotionally supported in a way where no one will ever try to make you feel like the emotions you are feeling are invalid, and no one will look at the next person who's angry, where that anger is just outward and not towards anybody in specific, as a bad thing. Where this starts to turn into the negative and low frequencies that can be transmuted is when we then direct those certain feelings directly at a single individual. And this is what Mars in Cancer does. When it gets stressed, it will direct it at a certain individual, and it will project its stress on an individual, and it will look to lower the frequency of the individual and indirectly cause it pain. And this is the definition, like I said, of emotional violence. So do understand that emotional violence or emotional genius are like really those two extremes on the outlets, on the left and the right. And really you want to practice restraint in the middle when it comes to understanding that all of this is a watering process. So like I said, until Mars hit about 9 degrees, don't expect to have a lot of energy, or expect to have a lot of energy, but that you're not really exerting all of it, especially not by force. Okay? If you can consider it as this is what is necessary to see the soul of not only myself but the one across from me, and realize that the illusion is that that person across from me has ever been separate, that will trap you ultimately. It will make you feel stuck, and you will freeze in real time. And we all have frozen in real time in a middle of an argument or discussion with a friend, a partner, a coworker, and inside we're steaming, we're fuming, and we're growing resentment at a poisonous and toxic degree that begins to ultimately hurt us and manifest emotional blockages and pains in the body. And that looks like now you have a knot. Now you're stiff. Now you need to stretch. So ladies and gentlemen, hit the thumbs up and the likes button. Join the membership if this resonates with you. Like I said, I didn't put a tremendous focus on the human design aspect. I gave some understanding of it, but check out the membership. I'm going to have the itinerary. You could check the community YouTube tab, and you'll see the itinerary. We're actually going through Neptune and Pluto, and then we're done with the planets, and we're moving on to the next exciting things. And, you know, when I say the next exciting things, I'm not even essentially saying it out loud, nor did I tell the members, because I don't know. Because this is the magic of the intentions were put out there as best as I could to be selfless in my efforts of what I do in the membership, and letting that, and not allowing the fear of I don't know and time to falsely accuse me of being out of alignment. I'm just trusting, and this is what Mars and Cancer is about. That's why it's so hard. That's why it feels like it's in its fall, why it feels like it's bad, because this is a divine sense of trust in the ways in which we act. This is your AstroShaman, Pernell Bobby, asking you to hit the thumbs up and the likes button. We are generating an economy of harmony, leveraging human design astrology, combining the two. I love you.